I had an affinity for boxing, and I was undefeated after about 25 amateur fights, and I had fought myself into the finals of a pre-Olympic tournament, which would ultimately determine who would represent the United States in Helsinki, 1952 in the Olympic Games. Ed Sanders, in the amateurs, could put one arm behind his back and toy with Floyd Patterson. He could show Sonny Liston in the amateurs a thing or two, and ultimately he did go to Helsinki and won the gold medal by beating Ingemar Johansson. So one of the things that went through my mind as I had to fight him in the finals was that up to that point, I made the mistake of always comparing myself with the best. But now I was competing against the best, and that made it even a little bit more scary. I'm in the elevator, going up to my room in the hotel. There are about 8 people in there, and I look over and there's this guy, Bobby Edwards. He's the only guy who had gone the distance with Ed Sanders in the prior 4 years without being knocked out. And so naturally, when I saw him there and the elevator door opened, he was exiting at his floor, I said, "Bobby, tell me, what's the secret to not being knocked out by Ed Sanders?" And as he stepped through the door with all the other people in the elevator door started to close again. "So help me," this is what he said. He peered back at me with a straight face and dead seriousness and said, "Don't hit him. He gets pissed off." That was not very encouraging. I got up the next morning and I tried to visualize and use the power of positive thinking how I was going to take on the great Ed Sanders. And the press caught me and they started interviewing me. And I told them from the bottom of my heart, I was going to get a knockout. You could take that to the bank. Of course, I was selling myself, but I was also trying to visualize success. And as I walked down the street afterwards, I knew Ed Sanders was somebody special because in the barber shops, instead of football players and basketball players, they had pictures of Ed Sanders, the boxer, in Pocatello, Idaho. And then came the night of the fight. And 9,000 cheering people. You know, I'd fought in front of 250 people before. Now, Ed Sanders knew how to draw a crowd like a pro. And I got up into that ring with him, but I was still thinking positive. And I was going to go after him from round 1 and not be like a typical amateur and fight standing straight up. I was going to come in and bob and weave and move on him. I won the first round rather handily. But Ed Sanders kind of went to school between the first and second round. And the second round, I did well, but not as well as the first round. Then came the third round, and I said, the formula's working. Go after him. Push, be aggressive, go for the jugular. Go hard or go home. And so I put the pedal to the metal, and I went after him. And I was doing pretty well. And then, guess what happened? About halfway through the third round, I got my knockout. There's only one thing wrong with it. It was my own. So fast forward to the Dow Chemical Company. They had a basketball team, which was a lure. And I went there and I met a guy named Tom Craig. And believe me, Tom liked to shoot. He wasn't modest, but he was good at it. And this time, for some inexplicable reason, he threw the ball back to me. And it hits me in the chest. I was so shocked and rolled down and rolled out of bounds. And I'm going back down the court. And I turned to him and I said, "Geez, I'm sorry." And he grabbed me by the shoulder and he says, "Don't you ever apologize again for a mistake like that. Everybody in the pavilion knows you blew it. So why do you have to apologize? It does not erase a mistake. Think of the positive." And this really changed my life because up to that time I had this facade of confidence, but I had gross insecurities and I had the fear of failure. It's not just the physical effort which can impact what you do outwardly and the facade you project outwardly, it's also what you feel inside. I decided that I would not fear failure, and Tom Craig changed my life. I still had kind of a wall built around me when I related to people. But if you have that wall, you can't get hurt. So it's kind of a defensive thing. But along with that, I had improved my confidence. And one of the things I found out was that you have to risk defeat in order to have the joy of some success.
You know, you've done all these strange athletic things in your time, but how do you compare bodybuilding to those other things?
Compared to any other sport I've ever been involved in, I've been in a lot of them, it is a total commitment. It gets involved before a contest 24 hours a day, the way you sleep, the way you go to work, the way you eat.
Complete discipline.
Total discipline, and the lifting the weights is only about 40% of it. Nutrition is maybe 40% of it, and 20% is mental, and I mean mental. Because the lady next door, when I grew up in Oakland, she had what I call the I wish syndrome. I wish I went to Europe. I wish I went to school. I wish I learned how to sing. I decided from hearing that lady talk when I used to mow my lawn that I wasn't going to be that way. I was going to be a participant. So I think those things are just great experiences. I'd rather get involved in something and lose and say I tried rather than sit along the sidelines and just yak about it.
Okay, listen, let's try the bench press stuff. Okay.
Age becomes kind of a reason for people to abandon their dreams. And when I work out, particularly by myself, there's not a workout I do that I don't think of the guys that I used to play sports with. Like when we won the city basketball championship, or I went to Cal on a football scholarship and I lost it because of the same bad back that finally led me into bodybuilding. But I wonder what those guys are doing now. I think about them. It's funny. Constantly. I think to myself, gee, if they were only here, we could do it again. And how much fun it would be, and I wonder if they've lost that.
They're probably across town in a gym working out, and they're going to be seeing you on Saturday night.
Well, maybe without having a beer and having more fun than I am. But it does go through my mind. And the other thing is, kind of my philosophy in the whole skinny, so to speak, is that I don't believe that all of us are born equal. In fact, I think most of us are born unequal. But I do think that most people don't even begin to perform at a very high level of their potential capacity. And so therefore, that some of us are born unequal really doesn't make any difference. Because if you're disciplined and you want to commit and you want to pay the penalty, you can have a lot of fun out of life.